be some kind of eraser for this endless flow of hurting folk that was overwhelming. And in this discussion, as we said before, Jesus, amid the dialogue, it just says straight out, Jesus looked at him. And on Monday, we pointed out that we're not quite equipped exactly like Jesus. Jesus was God and could do some things that they would be really unusual for any of us to do. Well, one of the prerogatives that God has is to actually look and see what's going on inside of our hearts and minds, inside of our memories, inside of our emotions. Not just memories of things, but how we feel about those memories. Now, you can recall an incident. And we could just play a videotape as it looked through your eyes. Just what it would look like, looking out, like if we had built in like Google Glass when you were making that memory. And we also recorded the sound. So it's just like we could sit in the theater and watch. But that does not tell us how you felt about what went on. If it showed you having a fight with a neighbor, somebody your own age, and you have a fight with them, and you ended up cussing them good and punching them and getting home. Who you are and who that person is to you makes all the difference for what kind of an incident that was. You might walk away with a sort of a dominant feeling. This might be some sort of an affirmation for you. You prevailed. And you told them good. And you had been told by your friends that you never stand up for yourself. So it could have been a glorious day and you went home with your hands raised in victory. Or it could have been your last best friend in the world. And that was a falling out. So we could see it through your eyes even and not know how you felt. We couldn't know your heart, even if we could know your memory. So the claim is that while we're looking at outward appearances, God is able, when He looks at a person, to see the person's heart. And then, to review, we said there are some things that we could actually extend. We could set up some axioms about all people and then extend those to each person. And we could know pretty certainly that they would be true about that person. If I asked you, as I did on Monday, to again recall your saddest, sickest memory, the thing that hurts you the most, when you remember it. There's nobody here that lacks the material for that task. If you look at anyone, you can know that they could describe something for you that they carry that would make them feel overwhelmed with sadness. And that would, in most people, evoke compassion. Even if that person is an enemy that's trying to ruin you. If you would just look at the person as the little person that they were, or the person they were last weekend when they were examining your life. There's some things that, no matter who they are, they can describe to you what they carry in their memories and in their hearts. And scars that you don't see just looking at the outward appearance. that would break your heart. Not only that, think about, if you could, for just a moment, think about what you wish you were that you know you're not going to be able to be. Think about what you feel profound disappointment because it's not possible for you, but it would mean everything if it could be true. When you look in the mirror, you have certain feelings. When you try to accomplish certain things that you would be so delighted to be just so confident in. And then you hear about people that you know, when they say, for instance, I'm going to be an astronaut, you think, well, yeah, that's realistic for them. Somebody says, well, what I want to do is, I want to record an album of beautiful music, and you've heard them, and they're really good. And you say, and I'm surprised you haven't made an album yet. And you're going, what happened to me? I like music. You know, I messed around with that instrument, and it didn't go anywhere. Or, yeah, okay, I can play, but almost everybody that plays better than I do, or sings better than I do. Or, yeah, I really wanted to be a physician, and I really tried, and I started out pre-med, and I'm just not smart enough to get through the sciences and the math. I just can't do it. So I had to change my major 7 times, until I found something that I could even pass. That is some of your story. Or something analogous to that. Or whoever it was, that if you could really make that person proud, but you can't, because what they would like for you, you just can't do it. And then you look around, and there's folk who are doing it or having it, or looking that way, or sounding that way. And you can say to yourself, wow, if I was that, or if I was like that person, then I could. And then you can imagine some really cool life. But it isn't going to happen. Recognize that everybody has that. That the person that you might be tempted to look at and say, oh wow, I wish I was, that they do that too. It doesn't matter who. Everybody does that. Everybody looks at the mirror and says, how do I have to be that one, that person? Is that a strange, does it ever occur to you, when you just think about who you are, that it's absurd? Do you ever have a feeling that it's sort of absurd to just be who you are? And then there's folk that aren't like that. When you look at a person, recognize that they're sharing that experience with you, that whole thing. Now, think in your mind about the time that you were the biggest jerk. That you either were unkind, or you weren't there for somebody, and you knew, you were a jerk. And to think about it and it hurts your feelings to go, oh, I wish that hadn't happened, I wish I could erase that. If I could go back, I wouldn't feel that way. Or the times that you've done or said something so that you think about it, immediately you can tell people are rolling their eyes, and then you reflect on it later and say, what an idiot. Why did I have to be the one who was the idiot? And everybody you ever see has all that whole mess. And everybody has folk that they tried to care for and it didn't get returned. Everybody has somebody that they just really wanted to be close to, and that person was like, no way. And every time that happens, it doesn't matter. You can be popular, you can be cool, you can be beautiful or handsome, you can be ripped. It doesn't make any difference. You can be skilled, you can be brilliant, you can be rich, you can be all confident. But there's still people that you can think of that you were going, oh man, I put it out there and they slapped it down. And when I think about it, it hurts today. You have that?
No.
You have it. I bet you have. Anybody get this? When you look at another person, you're looking at somebody who has in their insides an A, just like yours. You're not alone. You might be special. You might have a special kind, but everyone else does too. Everyone has that feeling from time to time of, why do I have to do this one instead of someone else? Some people look, oh, I'd rather be like that, you know? There's something about you that's like, you look at it and you go, most people don't have to be like this. You don't have to have this. When I was a little dude and had an enormous head of flaming red carrot top hair, that was just too much for anyone I ever went to school with. They just couldn't handle the fact that I had orange hair and freckles, and other people didn't. So, since there'd been half a dozen people they could think of that had ever been on TV or in the movies, male or female, they had to call me that, you know. There was a couple of child actors that were little red-headed boys that were approximately the age that I was, so they'd always call me by the TV name of one of those type TV program, The Partridge Family. Danny Bonaducci was a train wreck as a kid even, and had very similar flaming orange hair. And so it said, hey, Danny Partridge. It's like, get out. And I'm listening, and I'm not hearing them like labeling everyone else like that. You know, someone's got black hair. Everyone has black hair. No one's getting made fun of with black hair. I never heard anyone say, because they have black hair, you have to listen. Who in the movies has black hair? Oh, hey, Bruce Lee. Come on. I didn't hear any of that. But it was probably being said. While I was worrying about that, I probably was in school with Asian kids that were getting made fun of with stereotypes. Probably was in school with people that were Hispanic and getting made fun of with typical Hispanic jokes. But what I heard was redheaded jokes and being called Lucille Ball all the time. You know, why do people do that? Well, they did it to you for whatever it is about you. They found something. And they did it to me, and they did it to each person you'll ever see. And you don't have to ask them to share that with you in order to know it. You're welcome to, but it's not necessary to know that they have that same program running and running and running. It is. There's nobody you could meet that if you could just be in their heart, run the memories and see what it feels like, then it wouldn't break your heart. Nobody. So Jesus looked at the man, and then it says, and loved him. Well, we know that Jesus loved everybody. But it made a point to say in the story that there was a behavior worth mentioning. That I mean, to expressly say and love him. Not just a little adjective or adverb. It wasn't he looked at him lovingly. It wasn't. He looked at him and loved him. That was a full-fledged, honest-to-goodness, industrial strength verb. He did something to the man. He loved him. Actively, expressly. And when I read that and contemplated that, it translated itself, just something clicked inside of my head. And it translated into what was going to happen when I got to work for my shift that day. And I was so excited to go to work. I was sorry that it took as long to drive to Richmond, where I was stationed, where I was assigned on that particular day. And I was standing at the jail's back door. And this time it's not people that are coming in from the street. It's people that are getting transferred from different places, coming in on a bus that collected them either at one of the courts, where they had an appointment that day earlier, or transferring them from the Martinez jail to the Richmond jail, the West County Detention Facility, or coming from San Quentin or Pelican Bay or one of those prisons, because they get subpoenaed to come back and testify or face additional charges in county. So here's this collection of folk that are being transferred to Richmond, and I'm to meet them at the back door. They're all chained together. Took me an hour and 15 minutes to drive there to get ready. And then all the pre-shift briefing stuff and getting the uniforms all squared away, equipment all secured. And here I am, as I pictured it, looking at real life people having one of their worst days. So the Sally Port was filled with 30 or 40 people, all wearing about that color, a little bit different than that color, but gold scrubs, heavy canvas scrubs. And they already had wristbands. They were booked at the other facility, so they all had their hospital ID bracelets. I mean, these are jail ID bracelets. And they're a pretty rough lot. And normally what they do when the deputies stand there and wait until they get the whole Sally Port filled. A Sally Port is a double door, locks on two sides corridor, so you can have it locked, fill it up, lock it, and then open it. It means that people can't just go out one door and then they're out. So you go in, get locked in, and then people check to make sure it's okay to open to let you in or out the other way. So I'm standing, looking through the very thick glass. And normally people that are in there are flashing signs, and they're trying to, even though they're handcuffed, if there's somebody they don't like, they're trying to use their hands to, poke somebody with something or grab with their hands and use your imagination. They're passing kites, which is what they call a little tiny writing when they're passing messages in the inmate informal, although very well organized mail delivery system. They roll it up smaller than a booger, and then when you unroll it, it's like, how'd you get it to be that small? And they just they can store it between their fingers, and they can do this and you can't see it in their web of their hand. And then they're passing those, and they're doing all kinds they're mad dogging you. They look at you like, it's like, I'm going to kill you. You can feel it. Standing there going. And they're talking through their teeth. All kinds of threats are being made. They're swearing. If you turn away, so you're not watching the groups, you have to turn to look at something else, then they'll yell a threat with your name. And you have to just stand there, you haven't heard it all. But this time, yes.
Sorry, kind of random, but just out of curiosity, being in that situation, what did that do to your faith?
It grew it. It revitalized it. It gave another whole dimension. And I stood and I looked this day at each person as they filed in, as the transportation deputies pushed them into the sally port and then closed the door. I looked at each person and one person at a time, not for 15 minutes, not even for 5 minutes, just in an instant, I looked at them. And it registered in here that what they had in here was just like what I had in here. And I recognized immediately that all those things that I know about me and you and everyone else was 100% true for every single person in that salad port. So I looked and just had the thought, oh, I know. I looked at them. And I loved them. Not just I had a loving thought for them, I actually, in my heart, and in that voice that doesn't come out, you don't move your mouth and have sound come through your vocal cords, I just said in my mind, each person I looked at, I just had this, I know that we're the same. You just want to not hurt and you want to feel good. And you got all this other stuff, just like I had. You're just like me. And then I said, when I looked at each person inside, I said, I love you. One person at a time. It didn't take that long. As quickly as I could look. And then it was like, and I know all that stuff about you. And I love you. I just went around the whole group. But I did it. I didn't go, I didn't look like an idiot or awkward. I just stood there like I would have had I not been doing that. Except on the inside, I was just looking at each person and saying, I know all that about you. I love you. And then I looked at the next person. And I considered every single person in there. And then I called the door. So that the control tower opened the door closest to me. And I actually stepped in. And there was no talking, there was no swearing, there was no pushing, there was no kind of stuff going on. There was no glaring. I had 30 or 40 people looking at me in some sort of tenderness. Not even just decency, but tenderness. And no one was saying anything, which is unusual. Usually you have to say, be quiet, shut up, so that you can say, okay, you're gonna go into room 9 and you're gonna you're gonna leave your property to be inspected. You're gonna get in there, get your handcuffs off, watch the orientation video, and then get to the module. They were all already 100% quiet. It was spooky. And I said very normally, you're gonna go into room 9. I went through the speech. I didn't have to yell. They weren't making a sound. And they went quietly into the next room where they were asked to go, turned around, and myself and a number of other deputies were removing handcuffs and putting these chains on the cart. And one older gentleman, an older African American gentleman, who I could tell from his tattoos had been in a number of prisons for a long time. He had bricks on his tattoos, which means he'd been in Old Folsom. He'd been in the older Folsom prison. He did some time, and he looked hard. And when I took off his handcuffs, he did this to my hand, which you don't do that to a deputy. You go right to the carpet if you do that in that situation. But he didn't mean anything evil by it, and it was obvious. He just said, "Are you some kind of bully, man?" And I had this butterflies in my stomach, like when you do a somersault on your bed and it goes zing, you know? When you're a little kid, you have that stomach jump thing. When he said that, it was like electricity in their nervous system. I said, "I'm just a cop." And he said, "No, I felt you love it on me." And I didn't do anything except love him. A couple of days later, I was in line on the way home from a graveyard shift. So I hadn't been to bed yet, and it's not quite this time of day. It's a little earlier than this, when I was in the Rayleighs in Napa, where there's Target and Home Depot. I had my utility pants, cargo pants for my uniform, and I had my boots on still, but I just had a white t-shirt on, sweaty from wearing my vest all night. And a couple of people still ahead of me in line, and I just looked up and noticed a woman that was the cashier, and I didn't want to seem like I was leering at her or weird stalker sicko type or anything. So I didn't stare at her. I just looked down, and since I had looked up and had just a picture, an image of her in my mind, I thought the same thing I thought with those people in the salad corn. I just thought, I know those things are true for this person. I know these things. And I said inside of me, thinking of her, I said, "I love you." And I walked up when it was my turn, and you don't have to put your own stuff up onto the belt. They take it out and put it on the belt. And so she pulled my basket up there and was looking at the basket, and I went up there and stood at the counter, and she reached across and did the same thing that man had done in room 9. She just put her hand on the back of my hand, and she just leaned forward and she said, "Would you please pray for me?" And I said, why would you, do we know each other? And she said, "No, I just felt moved to ask." I said, "Do you want me to pray right now?" And she said, "No, in fact, I'll probably get in trouble for having even asked, but I just need prayer." And I said, "Anything specific?" And she said, "I can't share, but I just need you to pray for me." And by that time I was weirded out. I'd already been up all night. And you asked what that did for my faith, that whole experience. It opened a door to another whole dimension. And that started a personal spiritual practice that I've shared with a number of folk, many of whom have shared that they said, I'm going to try that. And they did. And they said, no kidding, that stuff really happens. People really did that. They really identified that they could tell something was happening. Had started having these strange experiences in doing that. And so I started looking forward to every person that I was going to get a chance to even encounter. I couldn't wait to get back to work and be there just to do that for people that were hurting. And nothing more, just that. Just to see them and know and love them. And then immediately have a mutual love relationship with somebody that I've never even spoken a word to.
I was just wondering, I know Ellen G. White says on page 38 and also page 43 about character that, and you even said it, like I'm just going to say the tendency to have habitual words and acts like, character and then it says, yet they realize that their character is imperfect, their life faulty, and they are ready to doubt whether their hearts have been renewed by the Holy Spirit. So would you say this empathy, this thought, or this loving on somebody is renewing of the Holy Spirit is a character that Ellen G. White is talking about?
I think that raises a couple of questions. One, would you need to have your character all squared away in order to do that? Like, do you have to get yourself all your ducks in a row in order to do that kind of thing? And my answer would be absolutely not. Two, what would this do for your character? If you found yourself looking forward to every opportunity to just consider and love, what would that do to shape your character? If you were every day, you woke up and said, I get to do that. So this thing that I had described, we'll talk more about experiences and ways that this can be a spiritual discipline. And it's part of a sort of a three-pronged practice that I have discovered that I will expand on as the rest of the month unfolds. However, shifting gears, I'm going to give you a quiz screen. Yes. It's actually a word.
Okay. Just curious.
The word backronym means something similar to acronym. An acronym is like the word laser. You make up a word, taking the first letters of each word, light amplification, stimulation, emitting radiation, or scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. This is different. Acronym is something where it's already a word, and then you make up something, a phrase or whatever, out of the words. But the word exists first, and then you sort of make up the what does it mean. It's sort of sometimes jokingly.
Name on each page, right?
Yes, please. Put your name on each page in case it should come unstable. Thank you. Appreciate it. No, number 8 is an error. It shouldn't say in her book, it should just say in her book. Sorry about that.
Not 10, too.
What's that?
It says that for number 10.
Oh, number 10 says that also. Cut and pasted and changed it around. Still didn't fix it.
Yeah.
Did you not get it? How do we miss it? Thank you very much. How do we miss it? Can you put the time in? No, there's only one time. Since you got a quiz, we'll be able to tell you we're here for it.
Oh, this is awesome.
Number 4, letter C, is grammatically ridiculous. Paul said that none of these witnesses should be considered separately. It should just be, Paul said that none of these witnesses should be considered separately. Oh, number 2. At the end of the question, number 2 should have a quote mark at the end. Do that. Excellent.
So next one.
You say to make an appointment, something out. Okay. You won't miss any lecture.